staffers. My name is Lori Davis, and I am the preschool coordinator at East Union Baptist Church. I'm going to tell you a little bit about engaging your campers, and that just is any interaction you're going to have with them, the importance of connecting with them. I just want to kind of give you some tips on what you might encounter as you're in your groups. Most of you have experience with that, so this is nothing new to you. It's just some tips that I have that I think would be beneficial to know if it's my first interaction with kids as a camp staffer. So I have 4 main points. It's not that long, don't worry. The first one is I just want to again state how important it is for you to connect with your campers. And on some level, each kid is probably going to connect with you on a different level. Some will connect with you on playing and they're active. Some are just going to connect with you and talk to you about Pokemon, and that's okay too. Everything that you're doing with them doesn't have to be just sharing the gospel. That's so important for us to do, but these kids need to trust you so that you can get into an opportunity where you can share the gospel with them, and they trust you on some level to trust that what you're telling them is true, especially if these are the kids' first experience with hearing the gospel, knowing what God is. And that's easy for us to forget. For us who we're at church every Sunday and we see kids here every Sunday, so it's easy for us to forget that there are some kids that this may be their very, very first time hearing that God even exists. So it's super important for you to connect with them on whatever level, and it may be something really silly and simple, just like Pokemon. I have a few ideas for you to create connection. Like I said, ask questions about them, what they're interested in, favorite colors, and be an active listener. And that's a big word for really just showing them that you're engaged in their conversation, that you aren't just waiting for them to finish, that you're not just asking them questions because you're supposed to, but you are really interested in hearing their answers. For kids, they know if you are distracted by whatever. If they're asking questions, like my kids will know if I have my phone in my hand, I'm not going to be an active listener, and they're going to know it. And so just try to be intentional about when you ask them questions, engage them when they give you an answer. Play games with them and do game time with them. They will think y'all are superheroes if you do game time with them, I promise. Be very intentional about making sure every single one of your campers are connected and are getting the same amount of attention. Some kids are really, really attention seeking, or connection seeking is the word that we would use. And so they're going to maybe get a little more attention. If you have a kid in your group that is hogging the attention, which you will have, there are some kids who are starved for, that connection and the attention. Seek out an adult and help us, because those other kids, the good kids, sometimes are the ones who aren't going to get the attention because they're being good. And so just try to be intentional about making sure all your campers are getting some kind of connection with you. I have a little bit of help with that. In that situation, you are going to get supplies for games that you can play with them. So I have 2 dice games. So you'll have a die in your bag, and one of them will have questions. So if they roll a certain number, if they roll a certain number, you'll ask them a certain question. And then another one will be fun. You can just do it in line. That way they're not embarrassing questions in line. But you can just roll a number, and they have to make a silly face if they roll a number 4 or something. It's really fun. And we also have a beach ball game. So when you're setting in like your daily quiet time and the Devo doesn't go as long as it should, or you need to keep them engaged a little bit longer, there's a beach ball you're going to get, and that will have all kinds of questions on it that you toss it to each kid, and what they catch, you just pick a finger, and whatever finger they answer that question closest to their right hand or whatever. You'll have all of this and the supplies and the instructions that you need for each game. There also will be something in your bag for a color scavenger hunt. So as you're walking around camp, tell them we're looking for these colors today. If you find something with this color, so we're going to get a blade of grass for green or whatever. And you'll also have on your staff or key ring some would you rather questions, so you can play would you rather. And these are just ways that kids connect by side learning. So you're showing them, I am interested in you, you are important, and I want to connect with you. Another number 2 would be to establish boundaries. We constantly tell you guys that you are not in charge of their discipline. So if you have to you have a hard behavior child and you feel like you're going to have to get too strict with them, we encourage you to use your adults in your cabin. But I just want to, number 2, in engaging children, you need to establish some boundaries, because kids feel safe when they know what to expect from you and know their boundaries. And so from the get-go, establish those boundaries. If you don't want your group of boys wrestling to the point someone gets hurt, establish that boundary at the very beginning and no roughhousing. And then that will let them know, okay, he expects us to keep our hands to ourselves and not roughhouse. And there's a little bit with boys, and that's your own comfort level. But if you allow them to roughhouse, and they're seeing you allow this, and then it escalates and escalates and escalates, and then finally you're at your level, then it's harder to pull them back than it would be to just establish it from the beginning. Also, the other thing I will say about establishing boundaries is you model the behavior you want to see in the kids. So if you want them to act a certain way and you expect them, if you're telling them to act a certain way, they need to see that behavior come from you first. Kids will rise to that level that you set for them. They'll rise to the expectation that you set for them, especially if you are modeling that behavior. They will mimic that behavior. Just know, these guys, I see it every Sunday. Youth in my department serving with kids, they love you guys. They think that y'all are awesome, and they're going to act just like you. And so grateful for that, because you guys will have a different level of impact on them. So just model that behavior and set those boundaries from the get-go. The third thing I wanted to talk to you about that's important when you're engaging kids is taking care of yourself. And I know that kind of sounds selfish, or what does that even have to do with engaging kids? But if you are your best self, you'll be able to give God your best yes. So when you're taking care of yourself, you're going to be able to pour into these kids. You cannot pour out to them from an empty cup. And so spending time with your Bible is so important. Whether you're going to the Devos in the morning with Brother Matt, or you're doing your own morning Devo, you need to spend time in the Bible, because everything is set up against you serving where God wants you to do when you're in God's will, and you need that protection. You need to get up and put on your armor in the mornings. And so that is so important. Fuel your spiritual life. Eat to fuel your body. I know that sounds so like diet commercial, but when you eat junk, you're going to feel like junk. So if you can still eat the candy, but if you aren't eating meals too and giving yourself some good fuel, you're going to drain, and those kids are going to wear you out. Sleep. I know this is not an issue at kids camp because you guys are tired, so you get plenty of sleep. But I just wanted to encourage you, if you are a night owl, kids camp's probably the place to kind of try to get some more sleep. Sunscreen, pack it, wear it, and reapply it. Know yourself and your limits. This is really important when working with kids, because I see it all the time on Sunday. Different adult volunteers are comfortable at a different level of working with kids. So some like very much the kids to be in line and to be very structured. Some are fine just letting them play and do whatever. And both of those scenarios are great. But it's really important for you to know kind of your own limits. And I know you're like, well, I've never worked with kids. How do I know my limit? Well, it's important for you to kind of know, okay, when I start to feel frustrated, what does that look like? When I am annoyed, what is my body telling me? What am I starting to feel? Because these things, it sounds so silly, but it's important because you're going to need to be aware of that working with kids. They're going to push you to a limit that you have probably not reached very much. Just when I'm angry, what do I feel like? And just know that. And it's okay. It's important what the next step is for you. If you're annoyed and angry of a kid, it's just pushed you to your very last nerve. That's okay. It happens when you're working with kids. But that what you do next is use your lifeline. And I called it a lifeline because you have adults in place. You have adults in your cabin. You have adults on the camp staff, and we are there to support you and help you be the best staffer that you can be. And we will understand those emotions and help you wrangle that kid and make that situation easier for you. The last thing that I wanted to encourage you, number 4, when engaging children, is to start now. Prepare your heart for camp and start praying for your group now. That'll help you prepare your heart and get it ready to pour out to these kids. The first thing I put, and I will tell you, I'm going to say the verses, but you'll have access to the slides. And so don't stress out if you can't write them down fast enough. Pray that the kids who have not received salvation, that not only will they have the opportunity to do that at camp, but that they'll understand that they'll understand the gospel that's being preached. In that, praying for your kids to receive salvation, pray for Dennis as he prepares to speak to them, pray for your devos. And I added some verses, John 3:16, Ephesians 2:8-9, Corinthians 5:21, Romans 5:9. And all of these verses, you can pray those specifically. God so loved my campers that he gave his only son so that my campers can be saved. Make it personal. Pray for the kids who are nervous and unsure. You have some young kids coming, kids who may have not been away from their parents much. Just pray for these kids and their nerves, that that they're just given a peace that passes understanding at camp, that those 2 days are just easy for them. And the verses I put is Psalms 27:1, Isaiah 41:10, and Deuteronomy 31:6. And just pray that God gives them the courage to come to camp and to experience what he has for them. Pray for the safety of everyone at camp, for sickness, for the safety as you're playing games. Kids are rough. And so just start praying for their safety at camp. 2 Thessalonians 3:3, Proverbs 4:6, and Psalms 5:11. And like I said, you will have access to these slides. So these verses, you'll have access to them. And the last thing is pray for strength and endurance. You're going to need it. You guys are so important to these campers, and I cannot say that enough. And your strength and your endurance to run this race that's been set before you is so important. And just start praying over that. Right now, Galatians 6:9, Hebrews 12:1, and Philippians 4:13. And like I said, you can personalize that. I, Lori, can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And the last thing I wanted to tell you guys is that you will have all of these things. We're giving you a staffer fanny pack And it will have all the games and the supplies in it. You'll have a wordless book and a pamphlet on the gospel and how to use it. You will have copies of your Devos, a survival kit. We just want to make sure that you guys are ready and prepared, and we're doing whatever we can to help you do the important work that God has for you. I am praying for you, and I am here for anything that you need at camp. I will be there at camp with you. We will be in that fire together and working for the Lord, and I am so excited, and I cannot wait. Thank you. Bye.